So Fairy Tale 351 is now out. This chapter started off with Natsu showing how he's back to normal, getting a little irritated too, and the fact he's going small and getting big, and he talks about how he should have just beat that guy at first. I'm assuming he's talking about the regression demon. I don't know about any of you, but I noticed the scar on Natsu's neck. I guess my camera showed right here. Right here, there was like a scar on his neck when he was like holding his scarf down, like he was readjusting and everything. And I actually haven't really seen much of that scar, other than Igneel has a scar on his neck, and Natsu. And if I remember correctly, they're all on the same side, almost like some kind of bond. And if you remember before that, Igneel seems to be actually watching Natsu and what he does from wherever the hell he's at in some volcanic location full of lava, which I find very interesting on what that's all about. So I want to know more about that scar. And then we get to see, Flare, Lucy, and Wendy show up. And, you got Flare doing her, calling people by their hair name like Cherry Hair, which I found a little funny. And I guess at first I didn't, just by the way they were drawn, it looked like they were still small. And then I saw how Natsu and them all seemed to be more developed, so I realized that I guess the magic finally turned them back to normal since Gray defeated the demon, or better yet, the guy was eaten. And then we got Gray running back with Carla and Happy with Gray and that giant bird. I don't even know what that thing is. I want to call it a caterpillar, but I don't know. It's like some giant bug. I don't know what the hell it is. I'll just call it a chicken caterpillar bird thing. I don't know. Some weird ass demon. And I think this has to do kind of with the whole gates of hell or gates of Hades. And Flare was also pointing out that mountain that Urza was fighting on was actually the eternal flame, which I find a little interesting that no one seemed to have noticed. How when we got a full view of it, it actually looked more like a flame, just shaped like a mountain, which I'm surprised that no one actually said anything before. So that was a little interesting to find that concept. That was actually the flame. I can't really say I saw that coming. So that's pretty interesting. I like that. And then Gray doing that whole thing he did against the demon about talking about how he can use the magic and with the ice and himself almost as one, and make it, I guess he could reform it into his form, I guess, like move it away from the flame, to de-ice it or thaw it out, only for it to go away. And here when Happy was just standing there dropping the bottle of Moondrip, Gray makes the eternal flame and basically the entire village just vanish. I can't say that I did not see that coming, but that was a little cheesy and just you screwed up. But then I'm curious to where it's at. The next chapter is supposed to be the voice of the eternal flame, which I feel maybe this eternal flame is some form of magical entity, maybe. Like Mavis is some ghost and still able to produce magic. So I find that, maybe this flame has some magical properties that someone from way before, like maybe the first fire mage or something like that, or maybe some new fire magic, which, they were sent there. It was supposed to be Gray Natsu sent there. Gray, obviously, we know why he was sent there. He's able to do that crap with the ice, only for it to disappear. And Natsu, I'm kind of wondering, maybe is he going to get some kind of power up from this flame, like some kind of new, like some new flame ability that it's like he shoots flames out and then all of a sudden they just stay there. They don't go out, or at least not by normal means, which would be very interesting. That'd be it, because if he were to go against like Zeref, that'd be an interesting concept. His eternal flame magic versus Zero's death magic. That'd be something I really want to see, and I want to say that is what this whole thing was about. Not Gray saving everyone and Natsu getting that firepower to go against Zeref. Although I don't think the tree guy knew anything about Zeref or anything ahead of time, unless he's working with him. Because I actually feel like with Zeref knowing Mavis, there was some form of connection between them, maybe when Fairy Tail was created, or maybe he was I don't want to say a fairy tale member, but you know, maybe they met at some point because they seem to have some kind of relationship. I don't want to say like they're rivals, but the way they met up, they almost as if they knew each other as friends, possibly. And then when he talked about destroying the world or whatever in Fairy Tale, then she got serious. So with that, I'm curious. I want to know more though about this scar on Natsu's neck. Is this some kind of way that Igneel can actually watch Natsu? Is this going to come in later on? Is this going to, what does this have to do? Because apparently this has to do with the whole scarf around his neck. And canon wise, the OAV or the video of Natsu going back in time and accidentally hitting himself, creating that scar, which obviously is not true at all since it's not canon. So it's not manga, so that we can't say that is relevant enough to use, but that was the only real time the scar's ever been really pointed out. And earlier when the manga started out, apparently Natsu threw his clothes off and put it on Lucy saying, "You're Natsu," and there seems to have been a scar there, but it was, I don't know if that was just a draw screw up or what, but this one you can clearly tell it's a very visible scar and it's more detailed. And I want to know, what is this scar about? Why is Hiro having him hold a scarf like this, like he's readjusting in such a way that the scar shows up? Is this going to come up later on? If so, that's something that we really need to see. And where's the eternal flame at? I want to see, what is this eternal flame in this voice? What do they have in common? Is this some kind of magical entity? Is Natsu actually going to be able to get some kind of new power out of that? I mean, this is something I feel I could actually really see this happening. Natsu getting some kind of ability, and which I find very interesting, and obviously maybe great too. Mixing with whatever that ice is, mixing his power with that to do whatever he's doing. Maybe he learns to control ice better, or some form like that. That he's actually getting a new magical power up. Not saying they're Urza's level, because Urza still needs to be powerful, just to keep them under control. I can see this happening, and even though with Natsu goofing off sometimes, he can become very responsible, and I can see him like he did to, maybe without eating so much fire like he did on Atlas, he could hit with this eternal flame power as much as he did to Rogue, future Rogue, with his fist. That there was like this huge explosion, just a huge explosion. I want to see, what is this going to do? What does this flame and the voice have in common? And what's this scar have to do? And why is it just like Igneel's? Is this somehow because he seems to have been able to watch, and I'm guessing he can watch Natsu, or he can feel Natsu. And maybe that's what the scar or the scarf had to do, when maybe that has some magical properties too that allows with that scar and the scarf, or somehow, because if you remember, it absorbed Zero's magic. So what does this have to do? Other than that, the chapter was, it got into more about the flame, which was very interesting. It felt short, but it got more into the flame. But there's a few points I want to know more about. What does the flame and the voice have in common? Where did the flame go? What's more about these giants and Flare? What's going on with them and the Gate of Hades? Why is Succubus here? What are their plans? What does this scar have to do on Natsu's neck that Hiro actually had to show us this? And I guess what the hell that monster was that ate the demon and that was chasing Gray until Natsu bit it into its eye. Well, there's a few points I really want to see more about. So until then, I guess we'll have to go off base what we have. But I feel like there's some kind of dots. These dots I'm mentioning have some connection to something bigger that will happen later on. So hopefully that will be answered soon. But otherwise, I'd have to give this chapter, if I was rating, which I think I'm going to start rating it. If like stars or whatever, I'd give it probably a 4 out of 5, just because there's a few information not left out. But otherwise, this chapter was very good. I really enjoyed it. I'm probably gonna read it again just for more detail. And I hope you guys, for those who haven't read it, and not sure why you're watching this video if you haven't, but to those who have read it, I think it was a very detailed, slow-moving chapter, but gave us some more information. So just comment, like, share, subscribe. Tell me what you think about this. Do you think this has anything to do with some kind of connection? Is there going to be some big boss that Natsu's going to fight? Do you think this flame and has some magical properties? What that scar has to do? If you can answer that, you might be able to answer the puzzle. As always, have a nice